So, sitting with friends, discussing a topic, and which I hope that even if you get one thing out of it, that's the importance of it. And together here and making sure that these senior experts, they share their knowledge, they share their views, their visions, their strategy even sometimes, even if they don't want to reveal it always, all the time. But at least it gives us an opportunity to discuss certain matters, as Vida rightly said, which are important, not only for the region, because it has an impact and an exposure for the rest of the world. So this is what we need to look at. But first to start, I would like to ask kindly Jorge to do a quick presentation. And then we'll go into the panel discussion. Thank you.
So, good morning all, once again. I think this year, I would say I'm even more anxious than the last years. So, we hope everything turns out all right. So, once again, thank you to the organizers, Vida in particular. Once again, I think this year we have even more support, so this means a lot. This week is a challenging week, but also a very important week for Portugal. There are two events going on. So one is just finished and the other one is starting. A lot of international interconnectivity. And so this means that what we've seen happening, or that would happen, is in fact really happening, which is Portugal as a hub for international connectivity and for data center as well. So I could talk about connectivity, but I will talk about something that didn't happen, probably. I would say it didn't happen. Last 28th of April, it was, I would say, normal day in Iberia. Somebody eating some tapas, somebody playing some football, having some sun. But suddenly, something went wrong. What happened? So soon everybody understood that it was not a simple power outage that we'd recover in seconds or minutes. There was a major power outage, okay? So we need to keep this in mind. It was a major power outage, something that we have never experienced in the Iberia. So what happened? People started to ask, what happened? Was it a cyber attack? Was it the Russians? Was it just a big cloud over some solar plants suddenly appeared? Well, my view is...
That's me.
Homer, once again, for sure it was Homer. Because at some point, what we know is not what was the cause. We know some things, but we don't know all of it. So probably, let's keep it with Homer. Yeah. So what was the impact? We know that there was a drop in voltage. So Spain had a drop suddenly, 15 gigawatts of its power production. So this means 60% of the power produced in Spain daily. This meant that the thin balance between offer and demand couldn't be kept anymore. And so it all cascaded down to a major power outage. To add to this, Portugal had this very good idea, which was not to pay much for the power it was acquiring. So it acquired a lot of power from Spain and a cheap power. But we were connected to Spain. And so when Spain went down, Portugal went down as well. And even France had a little bit of a hiccup. So what started to happen was that people stopped being able to communicate as well as they did in the past with everyone. Transportation was brought to a halt. Even people in the subway had to walk inside the tunnels and be rescued because they were kept inside the trams. No traffic lights. You can imagine the number of traffic jams in big cities like Madrid, Barcelona, Seville, Lisbon, Porto. It was huge. People were walking on the sidewalks, trying to think to go back at home. Sports events like Madrid ATP tennis open was suspended. So a lot of disruption. And then people started to feel anxious and more anxious because they couldn't communicate with other people, with their families as well. So this was something that in the end was the savior of the day. So candles, flashlights, and radios with batteries. So this was the only way that people that were not in an office with backup power, it was the way to, let's say, survive. But not only, what we've seen is that there was also an economic toll. And when an economy is completely or majorly based in digital services, you can imagine what is not to have, or most of you have felt what is not to have this kind of services on our hands. We couldn't withdraw cash from ATM machines. We could not make any kind of electronic payments. Companies using cloud services for computing, for storage, for processing data, they couldn't access it. So the ones that got away were the ones that had backup power. So we can see all of this and the impact by looking at some of the Cloudflare data that they released after the blackout. So you can see that the dashed lines are the lines that were supposed to have to be the traffic on that specific date, and the filled line is the one that we've seen. So the data really dropped, and the number of users that could access the internet also dropped sharply. Let's think of fixed lines. So at home, in the offices, nobody could access the internet because there was no power for the routers, for the gateways. And on the mobiles, we also seen that traffic started to decrease sharply and in a fast way. So you can see here in this graph that what happened was that immediately in Portugal, we had one or two players that lost their ability to produce communication services, and other players that slowly went down. So you can imagine what is, in terms of mobile, to have several thousands of sites with batteries. The amount of investment is huge, but in the end, it's something that is needed. On mail's side, what we're seeing is that the investment we've made into the base stations for mobile was really important because it allows us to secure communications for a longer period. And we had a spike. The spike that we see there is a spike that we've seen from roamers. So roamers changing from networks from one side to the other. And on this day, we had a peak in bandwidth that is similar to what we see in during summer. So during this initial period, we have seen a peak in terms of bandwidth usage that was similar to what we see in the summer. So on this regard, we understood that we needed to start shutting down services, the ones that would use more power, and we needed to make the cell stations last longer. So when you start to see the decrease on Meo's side is when we start to shut services to make it last as long as possible. So, and I'm closing, Eric, sorry for the time. Resilience cannot be optional. And for Mel, surely it is not. In terms of what mission critical infrastructure, the way we see it is that this would be the minimum configuration required for this kind of infrastructure. And I would say minimum because for most of them, we have even more resilience. So when we talk about resilience, we talk about having at least an N+1 configuration. We duplicated UPSs and batteries. We duplicated DC power system and its batteries. We duplicated connectivity into the cabinets and into the servers. So again, this is something that in terms of the whole world, in terms of the connectivity in particular, we cannot think that this happened once and will not happen again. This will happen again. We just don't know how or why and in which terms, but it will happen again. So my call to action is the improvement of resilience in terms of the digital infra. So I'll leave you with this. It's just, it's a bit different, but it's a call to action. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Jorge. Really interesting, and it's nice to again elaborate again, guys. Security is number one. Make sure you have the backup and your architecture is well in place, you know, and you can rely on a reliable network. That's what's all needed, and then at least you can do the best you can, right? I'm happy to hear that Mayo is in it. So I quickly give, I mean, Jorge, we all know, we all know these gentlemen as well, but I just give them a little minute to present themselves, to introduce themselves for the people who do not know these gentlemen already, and maybe say something. There are some latest news, and I know, so. If I may give the word first to Artur, please, you start.
Hello, good morning all. Artur Mendes, VP of Angola Cables and Telcables Europe. So that's the news for some of you guys. So we have, you know, that all Angola Cables subsidiaries in the world are these days Telcables, and we have Telcables Europe as well that we launch in Portugal that will cover the Europe region. So that's the news basically.
Okay, thank you, Carlos.
So, hello, morning everybody. Carlos Paulino, I'm the Managing Director of Equinix Portugal. Very involved also in all the subsea topics and discussions and the Portugal evolution on the sector. Basically, 25 to 26 years ago, I opened the first neutral data center in Portugal that counts now with more than 70 networks that really... Yeah, and the IBX also, it's impressive. And the good news also are that we just last Monday opened the second facility in Lisbon, increasing resilience and really capacity to grow our market and to grow the capacity of Portugal to interconnect, like you said, the globe.
LC2, right?
Yeah, LS2, that's the one. LS2, that's the.
That was close, right?
Yeah,
congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
Damien?
Hello, Damien Bertrand from Afrix Telecom and of course of Medusa subsea cable system. The news, we are growing in the Med, adding new landing points, new countries. And the next good news, if I can say, is that we're going to be ready for service at the end of this year for already 3 countries in the West Med.
Okay, well, congrats on that one. Can I congratulate you as well, Manuel?
Later. Good morning, everyone. Manuel Capoeira. I'm from the Portuguese telecommunications or communications regulator. It's a pleasure to be here. Yesterday, we were exchanging a couple of ideas at WhatsApp for this panel, and I said that I was only going to speak if there was any failure of conversation. So my perspective is that I only regulate if there is a failure. So if everything goes according to plan, you won't be hearing from me anymore. So it is a pleasure.
And was that before the match against Germany or after?
Well said. No, it was before, but now I definitely don't have to regulate anything. But we'll see tonight what is going to happen.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you so much. Last but not least, Benoit.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm Benoit Denis, a Senior Investment Officer from the European Investment Bank, working on the financing of the telecom sector. So it goes, of course, from submarine cables to transmission networks national and to access networks. Also working on the space segments. So quite diverse. Very pleased to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very honored to have you as well. So if we need cash, guys, we go to that guy, right? It's always these guys, right? They're always in the middle. You're always in the middle, right? Maybe next time we do it on Saturday morning, right? Then he's sleeping, so we can go on. Anyway, guys, emerging business models and investment strategies for meeting the future digital demand in the cable technology. Carlos, we mentioned it, we dropped it already a couple of times. I mean, can you again, because we need to bring this message to the world, the importance of Lisbon as a strategic landing point, and and hub connecting not only the Mediterranean, Africa, over to the Atlantic. Again, tell us.
Well, like I said, we have made our investment to duplicate, well, more than triplicate the capacity that we have, because we truly believe that Portugal is now going through this window of opportunity where we all here in the room need to align and need to work together to really reach there. No doubt that we are seeing new routes being raised. I think almost every month there is a new project somewhere in the world about cables, and in Portugal we are seeing really new projects and very interesting projects. Medusa, for instance, is a completely new idea of interconnecting the interior, all the Mediterranean. We are seeing, of course, like projects like Link crossing the South Atlantic. We saw Angola Cables in a very leading role of interconnecting the South Atlantic. We are seeing, of course, MEL really extending also to have once again more capacity out there.
And now you're going to tell they all come to you, right?
Absolutely. There's where they meet. No doubt. But we really need to really take the opportunity that we have. That is a tremendous opportunity ahead. All the South Africa, all the West Africa till South Africa, I believe it's the most attractive market that we can have. And there's no doubt that most of our demand will come from there. We are seeing also, I was discussing that yesterday with Andrade, and it was really this idea of having more and more of a mesh network around the oceans, and the Pacific is probably more of a tool already. The Atlantic will get there, and we will see for sure more cables entering in Portugal. We need to not only help on the regulation, that's where we need our good friend to help us really, and have there are several initiatives like the protected corridors, so a very more easy way of passing through the whole permitting process. We are seeing from the data center side that large investments are being made in Portugal, so we are being able now to serve almost all segments of demand, and that is great. We didn't do that in the past, so there's something new in Portugal. So we already have the connectivity, we already have the offer covering all the demand for colocation. We are really playing hardball on green energies. So that's a box we are ticking, no doubt there. We are learning with our mistakes about the grid resilience, and Portugal and Spain are really lead examples on the introduction of such high numbers of high shares of green energy. So it's true that it was very costly the event that happened, but it really brought conscience and we know now more that most of the other location that also had this problem as a potential future incident. So I think altogether we are continuously making the right steps to see the growth that we know it will happen already on the field, and now with the investments confirming that the demand is there. I never saw in 26 years of data centers. I always say the last 4 were the most funny ones. It's really impressive the demand that we are seeing, yeah, absolutely in every direction. So that immediately proves how powerful can Portugal be on the global landscape.
No, and it's good to hear that you with Equinix already saw it. You had the vision, you still have the vision. But I'll promise you something. The last 4 years were nice, but the next 4 years will be juicy and funky. Trust me, because you're gonna explode.
I have absolutely no doubt.
With the help from Manuel, of course, right? Right, Damien, please.
Yes, just like Carlos has said, the trends, but just to try to put some figures on it, we believe that from sub-Saharan Africa, about 60% of the international boundaries is routed through Europe, through Portugal. So that's a huge part of it. And when you think that over there, growth is maybe 30–40% annual growth, it's huge. If you go closer to North African countries, if you take from Morocco to Egypt, those 5 countries represent, out of the 54 African countries, they represent half of the international boundaries. So the North Africa is a huge, have huge needs, and they have now let's say the big countries are maybe 3, 4, 5 terawatts. So it starts to be important, and almost 100% of those needs are routed through Europe. So we are very close, and we are almost the 100% have to go through Portugal or Spain or Italy or France. I mean through South Europe. So that's a huge market, and this is just to give a few figures on this one.
Artur?
Well, I could add, because if we look to the world, Africa is the region with the biggest growth in terms of traffic each year. And of course, most of the west traffic of Africa come to Portugal or to UK. And on that sense, of course, Portugal plays an important role on it. But we also need to look to Portugal and say that we are connected to everywhere. People are not aware of that. But of course, we are not connected to Oceania, but we are connected to Asia through a cable. We are connecting to Latin America, to United States, to Africa. So on that sense, Portugal have a great place to be, because from here you could reach most of the world, and we could be considered as an important hub for that. And we are seeing all of these investments that Carlos was saying. We never see it in the Portuguese history, so many investments being done in terms of data centers, which means that something is happening. So it's not only the new submarine cables coming, but also the data centers that are needed so that we could create the full ecosystem. And we see it's happening in other places where we as Angola Cables participate. Fortaleza was one of the cases, was just a passage place. We opened the data center there, and the full ecosystem started to booming. And we see after that a lot of new investments, and we are seeing exactly the same in Portugal. And we are proud of somehow also support that and help, because it's a great future, as you say. The next years will be even
juicy and funky.
Juicy and funky. That's a good word.
Thank you. Now, Manuel, are you helping these guys?
juicy and funky. Okay, so some of you already heard this, but I always like to impress with my Chinese. So, or Mandarin, Pu Lu Zhong. It's something that I've been saying over and over again. And this was the words that Chinese had for Singapore. And the actual translation is the island of the end. So it was something that after which was nothing there. So it was the end of the world. People say that Portugal is at the end of the Europe. Now Singapore is the door of Asia. It's the gateway of Asia. It's where everybody wants to be. Besides that, as someone already pointed out, we can actually go around the world always connecting Portuguese-speaking countries. So we can go around the world connecting countries that speak Portuguese, that have similar laws, that have similar culture, that we speak the same language. We have to coordinate regulation, obviously, but this is a huge opportunity for us. Thirdly, yes, can I help them or not? The last slide, George, wonderful slide, by the way. I'm going to use it. Please send it to me because it's a wonderful slide that yes. No, I'm going to ask information from Mayo, and one of the information will be I want that slide. But anyway, that slide was interesting to show one thing is that I've been looking at things related to regulation for a long time. And what I know how to do is to regulate a linear infrastructure. So I know very well what to do with a highway. I know very well what to do in an infrastructure like the cables that telecommunications use. But when I look at the digital ecosystem, as you can see, everything connects to everything. So I have an highway that I know how to regulate, is a natural monopoly, but on top of it, there are cars that go on and develop business inside of the cars. and they do this, and at the beginning, at the end, there are data centers that are already helping for the quality of the highway, and those data centers have inside of it people producing algorithms and learning and teaching and doing all kinds of stuff. And this turns regulation around. First of all, I don't like to use the word regulation because at the moment, I think that we should only look at this in the perspective that we have to help to govern how this is going to happen. It is a huge challenge. I truly believe that we have to coordinate not only between countries, but we definitely have to coordinate with everyone in this room because you have something that I do not have. And actually, you have the money to have something that I don't have, which is studies about the future. Perspectiva. I forgot the English word. Foresight. Yeah. You have foresight reports, and I don't have them because I don't have money to pay for them.
So it's their fault.
So yes, if they give me, if they tell me what is going to happen in 10 years, in 20 years, maybe I will be in a better position to help. But at the moment, again, regulations should be looked in a different perspective. The interaction between sectors, the interaction between players is totally different from anything that we had in the past. It is true that I do know how to regulate a submarine cable. Yes, I do know how to consider the necessity of regulating a data center. But everything that is happening around us, it's truly complicated. I will come back to you sharing with you something exciting, which is the paradox of the omelette. So the omelette paradox.
Manuel.
And then I will explain why.
I'd like to...
Please, Jorge, jump in.
It's really interesting.
He wants something from you.
No, first of all, it's really interesting to hear this kind of positioning from yourself and from ANACOM. It's really important that we see regulation on a different perspective. I think that when it comes to the regulator requesting information from MEO, we are used to. So we will share it with you. We will share the slide with you, of course. No, just joking. And also, the last slide said, but I didn't show it, built for chaos, designed to endure. And this is something that we need to take care, but we also need to take care in terms of what are the obligations in each of the players and what this means in terms of the total capex, the total investment that companies need to put forward, because this is, of course, a burden. For me to reach my board and to tell them we need to duplicate the investment in terms of power, the question is why? Why are we putting our belt and putting some, I don't know the name of it, securing our pants all the ways possible? And this is, we have seen why, but it's difficult for us to put this kind of investment in. So we need to take care and need to have a really good balance. So this is my main, I would say, concern on how we move forward with this kind of regulation. We need to regulate, and the obligation to do something we need to take care because of the amount of investment we might need to put forward. I would like to say one other thing, which is really important, and I already told yesterday to Damien, but I want to say this publicly. To see subsea investment to be as it is, namely being driven by the OTTs, they are the ones building the major cable routes. But to see a private company to come in and work with institutions like the World Bank or the European Investment Bank and try to manage and to put forward a subsea cable that is hundreds of millions in terms of cost, that implies a very balanced geopolitical approach. To make this happen is just enormous. So I give my congratulations to Damien and to Medusa, Norman as well. And so I think that in terms of, I would like to hear it as well from the World Bank, how you see, how you can help this kind of investment.
Before we go to
a European, sorry, it was just a minor mistake. European investment
to Benoit, because I think I want to ask his vision and or if we are on the right path. But I quickly give Damien a quick minute to react.
Yes, thank you. But that's true that we are facing several challenges for a new subsea system without so deep pockets. You have really to work on different to solve different challenges, and you have commercial, you have financial, you have technical, and I would say you have regulatory. But the first one is the commercial one, because at subsea level, or you are able to have your customers, and you have, what is tricky is that you have to have them on board before building. This is what we call anchor customers, and so pre-sales, but you have to sign it and then you can launch your system. And it's very simple. If you have it, you go, you move forward. If you don't have it, there's no project. So when it's hundreds of millions of euros, that's true that it's very, very difficult to make it happen, to promote and to move forward. I will go to technical, then I will go to the financial. Technically also speaking, it's a very complex project. For example, Medusa, we are now going to be in 12 countries, more than 20 landing points. So even if you have Alcatel Submarine Network as the vendor, and it is the worldwide leader, you have to have your own in-house marine persons in order to make all the steps from survey, to check it, to even to form the contract with ASN, even to negotiate and so on. And once you start, you can imagine the number of issues that you have to solve. Regulatory also, you have so many points. Just one, permit in principle to have the right to lay your and to operate your undersea cable, say seabed, I mean, sorry. It takes two years or more in order to complete everything. And so on the financial, it's very tricky also on this side, because financing a subsea cable is not an easy task. And on this side, I would like to highlight the role the European Commission, the EIB, have been playing for the last 3-4 years through grants like SAFE2, through loans, And it has been supporting several European initiatives in the subsea field, and it has been very important as a support. So now, please, Benoit.
So, Michael, before I go to Benoit, it could well be okay if things takes long, then get your vision in time, make sure that your planning is in order, and move. I know it sounds not nice, but by the end of the day, it comes together because we need to partner up with everybody of us to make sure that we are in time. It's nice to have a vision, but also make sure that you have your stuff in order and to make sure that it gets there. Because yes, these guys are taking time, of course, you know, and we need to check and we need to. So let's hear now from the financial part, from the investment side. And I actually have a couple of questions to you because you heard, let's say, these gentlemen talking about, and they have a vision and everything is good, and they pumped a huge amount of money in there. So did you, actually. Are they right? Were they right to invest so much money in this here in the Lisbon area, in Sintra and so on? And how do you see, let's say, do you agree on their vision for the coming years? So, a couple of questions, please, Benoit. Benoit, Manuel.
Thank you. I mean, we've been financing telecom networks since the very beginning of EIB 65 years ago. You know, we've been running at 3-4 billion investments per year in that sector. And actually, many of you guys are in the room are clients. Mayo, we've transacted also with NOS, Medusa. So there is SES in the room. So a bunch of you. I mean, clearly it is an important sector as a public bank to invest in. The two priorities the Commission and we have is green transition and the digital transition, and the two go together. And I think your case, your presentation very much highlights this. Of course, you know, this market is booming, and it's all about where do you invest, you know, given a very evolving market environment with the OTTs that have come in, that have taken the cash cows, you know, of the transatlantic routes. So we need to identify innovative companies in data centers that find the right spots where to invest in submarine cables, also that go into the routes that, you know, others don't think of identify are too small to invest into. And of course, as a public bank, it is our role to look into the financial return of the projects. We only finance in projects we feel are sustainable financially, and we've been doing very good at that. We have very few losses on our investments, especially in telecom, but also some that have an economic value. And I think your case on resilience is very illustrative. You know, we finance a second cable in Mauritania, which connects to Elalink, which connects to Portugal. What is the market for that? The main submarine cable in operation is filled at about 10%. So you're just adding capacity that is not needed, but that resilience has a tremendous economic value. Because if you look at, you know, about 300 working days per year in such economies, if there is 1 day of no production or quasi no production, that's 0.3% of GDP that you destroy. If you multiply this by a week, by 10 days, the time to bring a ship in, that's tremendous. You know, any country that loses 2-3% GDP over a year, it is a tremendous impact.
It's huge.
So as a banker, of course, we are risk adverse. One of the risks, you know, some time ago, you know, the regulatory risk was important, you know, changes in regulation, permitting, and so on. But I have to say, I've dealt with ANACOM in the past through our investments in Portugal. You know, great guys. I've put in place a very good framework, and many also the countries where you've intervened, Angola, Cabo Verde, I dealt with. I think in most economies, we have now robust regulatory frameworks. ITU is also doing a great job with tardigrades. Of course, the key question is the one that Damien was highlighting, especially for such investments as submarine cables, is the offtakes. You know, we like to take risk, we provide very long-term financing, but we also want to be secure. We still remain a bank. We're not here to put money into something that is going to fail. And here, timing is of the essence. So aligning clients at the right time, aligning financiers at the right time. And my key advice to anyone putting together a project such as the ones you guys invest in is get everyone around the table, your financiers, your clients, your lawyers, and let's work together towards achieving that timing. Because in the end, we're all in the boat together. We're all here to make it happen, and regulators as well. I mean, they love it when there is an investment that is built, that is generating economic return for the country.
No, thank you. Thank you. And as we said earlier, the partnership will and is remain, the most important thing, and make sure that, you look at the pro, look at the contrast, and you make sure that you come as fast as possible, with your planning and with your target time to market, because that's so. How do scoping the future a little bit? Benoit, if I may stay with you, what do you foresee for the future, except that it will be bright, of course, but how do you see it from financial point of view, investment point of view?
Well, bright and sometimes also not so bright. There are some investments that do worry me a bit. On data centers, for instance, in some African markets, I see a concentration in some key markets where there may be a bit some oversupply, whereas some other markets are underserved. So those worry me a bit. And actually, there are a few companies, it's well known that have difficulties. So it's not about all going into the same boat as soon as something is picking up. You have to be very attentive on identifying what is the supply, those forecasts in demand, and going to the right locations. But clearly, I think on submarine cables, there is a lot of opportunity. I mean, we've discussed a lot on Africa. There have been 2 major investments by the large OTTs, which are soon to be filled. So tremendous growth, and there is need for more. And then after, of course, if I take my hat of a public bank, you still have countries that have one cable that is 10, 15 years old. I'm talking about Liberia, Sierra Leone, all those countries, so Guinea-Bissau and so on. You have some that are not connected. So there is a need, but there is a need with a public intervention, with us, with our partners, the World Bank and others, because of course the market failure there are tremendous. But I think in the long term, those markets are going to generate returns.
Okay, so what you're saying is actually I want a bit more vision, and then we're happy to have a look at it. Correct? That's what you're saying, Manuel?
Yes.
Yes.
Because when you said there are some countries that only have one cable that is 10 years old, I thought you were going to talk about CAM and the source. And I was going to reach out for the mic. But let me try to address a couple of different issues. First, yes, there are situations where the market is too small, and that's where the government should intervene, and where we as regulators can signal the necessity to intervene. Example, the CAM and the revision of the CAM and the new CAM. I don't know, people will be talking about this, I believe, this afternoon, but anyway, the way that the CAM is going to be financed is that the investment is going to be supported by the government, and the usage, so the OPEX is the only thing that is going to be under a tariff or a price, which is the good way to do it, according to the books. And that is the way to achieve, I'm an economist, an academic, so the first optimum, great. But then we have the problem of CapEx. And we have to pay for the CapEx. And I do know what is a solution for a CapEx when, again, I have a straight highway. I know exactly what to do as an economist. The thing is that when you have a platform where some of the operators actually are offering part of the service that use that CapEx for some reasons, and you do have them, and you do have operators that have cables or have data centers that say you can use this as you want. I can give an example, ChatGPT. And the thing is, obviously, someone is going to pay for the capex, but we have a platform, and the platform has multiple sites and multiple people paying at the same time, which makes the life of the regulator much difficult. And I'm going to go back to difficulties of being a regulator nowadays. So it's no longer just pricing one service; it's looking at all services, and besides that, to understand exactly what is the positioning of each operator at the moment within the ecosystem. And speaking, and I just saw a very well-known lawyer for competition and regulation in Portugal getting into the room. So now I'll be really, really careful with what I say. But there will be operators with a special position in parts of the network that we have to look upon. One last thing about omelets. Let me share what is my morning during the weekend. So I wake up, I decide to do an omelet. Obviously, I break eggs and I scramble the eggs. And at some point, someone will come into the kitchen and will say, "What have you done? Why are you scrambling the eggs? Those eggs were to do a cake this afternoon." So that is my regulator. And then after scrambling the eggs, there's actually nothing you can do. You cannot unscramble the eggs that are already scrambled. This is the way Luís Cabral, a very well-known economist, referred to how the DMA is being drawn within the Commission to regulate digital. And the idea that he has is that what worries the Commission is that if we don't do nothing after the things already happened, after an algorithm has already learned, it cannot unlearn. So we cannot unscramble the eggs. And that is something that is worrying a lot the regulators. My perspective, and something that will be published in Portuguese next month in a book, it will be translated into English. I'm not going to say who is the author. My perspective is that you have a paradox, because at the beginning you want the omelette. So we want the omelette. So we want to have the omelette. But we know that if we allow someone to start scrambling the eggs, afterwards it will be difficult to go back. In what regards infrastructures, that is already happening. For instance, we have the decision of having 6 pairs of fiber in an infrastructure. You can laugh. But obviously, this was decided 6 years ago, 10 years ago, and it is difficult to change it now. But now we know that it's laughable to have a subsea cable with 6 pairs of fiber. But we had to make a decision. So we wanted omelette. We decided to move forward. We have the infrastructure. We designed the infrastructure. We are going to allow the data center to start using that infrastructure and creating things. We want all of this, but we know that in the future to go back, it's impossible in what regards the training of data. It's very difficult in what regards the implementing of infrastructures. Again, regulating is difficult. The only way to do this correctly is to have a good vision about the future. And again, we have to talk about this because it's impossible for a regulator on its own, sitting down in a table, to have this foresight capacity.
Now I really know where I'm not going to be in the weekend, not with him, because I want my omelette. I don't want scrambled eggs, right? And otherwise, no. You can scramble the eggs. My mother would put a little bit of milk to it, and then she makes an omelette out of it, right?
This is the work of a regulator. It's let's regulate the milk.
That's called partnership. That's called partnership. Okay, quickly, guys, because we're running already. The first one, we're running out of time. And otherwise...
We already addressed so many topics that we are really covering it all. From the regulator perspective, I truly believe that you have a tremendous challenge ahead. I have no doubt that Europe already discovered that Europe is over-regulating. Data centers, I'm speaking in the data centers world, I truly believe that we show ourselves enough responsible, and we have made commitments far beyond any regulation. And we are waiting for regulation, of course, it has to come. I just ask that it needs to be flexible, it needs to be adaptable, and when you are talking about communication, or mainly telecommunications, you have a new generation of mobile every 10 years. You have it's fast, but not as fast as really what we are seeing in IT. Like 4 years ago, you were not talking about ChatGPT, and immediately you already have an entire world of new realities that you need to regulate. So no doubt we need the regulator really to help us also in Portugal, making processes easier and really set the rules to grow, no doubt there. If we go with some regulation that you cannot use eggs, you will lose the omelette and the cake, that's for sure. So we really need to go on that direction. And it's amazing to have you here and to really be with the industry and working all together and understand.
Well, what I would say is, why don't you start having coffee together and then work the rest out, right?
Yeah.
How do we want our breakfast? Last word for this round for Jorge. Please.
I would like to take the sentence that you just used to say that it's the way to move forward. I think on international infrastructure, we need to do it, and we need to sit at the same table, namely to address something that is really important for the investment in Portugal and for the infrastructure industry as a whole, which is to get permitting, authorizations, and access much more faster than what we have today. So this is my take on this, and we are available to help on this, to work on the idea that we've been discussing for a long time, which is the one-stop shop. But I think that Carlos used the words that I would use as well. So we need to be flexible and adaptable. Although we believe in regulation, we need to have this idea. Just looking into the future, and just to add something that this week became even more clearer, and this will bring, of course, more work to all of us, and that is really interesting. I think protectionism being brought by the Donald, let's say, will increase the amount of new investments that we are seeing in terms of connectivity. And this will become a reality in terms of regions putting forward investment, but not locally. It will be to cover the globe, okay? And we are talking about the United States, Europe, and China, let's say. Middle East will play a role as well, I'm sure of it. So looking forward, although this idea of protectionism, we all want to not listen to it, but I think it will bring more investment as a whole, and I'm sure Portugal will capture, for sure, a lot of new investment in the future.
So the next 4 years, juicy and funky?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
No doubt there. No doubt there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen. Just the last one, the quick.
Yeah. No, for the future, you asked for the future. So what we see, so first, ready for service this year, next year for all the med. What next steps are eastward and westward. So eastwards, we sign in June 24 in Egypt. It was the EU Egypt Investment Summit. So we signed to have a ring of fibers from Port Said in the Mediterranean Sea to Taba on the Red Sea and to Aqaba in Jordan. So it means that we will reach Aqaba, so the Gulf region, let's call it. So from there, next year, you will be able to have Aqaba to Lisbon, for example, possibilities. This is, I believe, an important step also. And what you have just said regarding West Africa, of course, there is a need. And again, the technical, financial, commercial project answer is really complex, but we have to work on it and to find the balanced solution for it. So also that will be the near future.
And sometimes, if I may give you this message, think out of the box to come to the solution by starting drinking a coffee in the morning with each other. No, that's true. Thank you so much. We run out of time, but I really would like to thank you so much for being here, Benoit. Really, thank you for your insights and sharing and giving the helicopter view, because everybody from out of their own discipline can want something, you know, or is protecting something, or says, hey, yeah, but you see the whole picture. And I think your message was quite clear, and thank you for being here. Okay. Thank you, Manuel, for your insights as always, and thank you for your eggs. But Damien, Carlos, Artur, and of course Meo, and of course Mr. Jorge. Thank you so much for your presentation. Thank you, guys. We'll regather here in 5 minutes, talking about satellite. All right? Are you ready for it? Grab a coffee, talk to each other, and come back. Thank you.